concept of going out and finding people who've never ever heard anything, seeing them saved, and discipling them to complete maturity and being able to say, ta-da! I still have that wonderful romantic desire, but the fact is it doesn't usually work that way. Because the biblical principle is one sows and another reaps. And so generally when you go out, I hear stories of people that go out soul winning, they present the gospel and someone gets saved. And think, wow, one time when they got saved, guaranteed. They've been doing a preparation in their life before that if they were genuinely saved. But the problem is, we need to be consistently sowing the seed. If there isn't the one who soweth, then there can't be the one who reaps. We don't just reap without sowing. And this is a lesson that we've had to learn in our ministry in Japan. So often we sow and we sow and we sow, and we don't see any direct fruit from it. So we think. But what we're learning to understand is the seeds we sow now will bear fruit somewhere down the line. And probably it will be someone else who gets to reap the harvest. Because we're not reaping the harvest, does that mean our ministry is invalid? Definitely not. Sowing is just as important as reaping. And faithfulness in the process is equally important. It's amazing. We've seen time and time again, we'll have a special outreach in our church, and we'll pray and we'll invite and we'll hand out invitations and put tracts in letterboxes, and we'll have a guest preacher come, and we'll have a wonderful meeting. We don't see anyone saved through it. And then the following Sunday, we see someone saved. Or the week before, we see someone saved. And we think, hang on a second, you were supposed to come next week and get it saved. But he says, verse 38, I sent you to reap that whereon you bestowed no labour. Other men laboured, and you entered into their labours. Somebody else has done the work, and we're doing the work on something else, and while I'm sowing the seed here, I'm actually reaping over there. And while I'm sowing the seed here, Lord willing, somebody else is going to come along and reap there. But the problem is there's not enough reapers, and there's not enough sowers. There's 126 million Japanese that still need the Lord Jesus Christ as Saviour. Japan is definitely one of these countries that is partly evangelized. Japan was closed to the West from the from the 1630s until the mid-1800s, over 200 years. Why? Their first exposure to the West and to Christianity was the Jesuits who came to France and Zambia. And like the Catholic missionaries anywhere in the world, their perspective is convert and conquer. The Japanese understood that and said, we don't want that. We don't want this taking over our country. So they expelled them, they expelled all foreigners and said, we want no contact with the West. Open-ended. And it took over 200 years until the mid or late 1800s, the Meiji Restoration, until that finally changed. From the late 1800s, Protestant missionaries started entering Japan. Many of them, their focus was on education rather than evangelism, or social help rather than evangelism, but they still sowed some seeds. And then through the early 20th century up to the First World War, there was a slow trickle of Protestant missionaries who came and who had some success with their ministries. At the end of the Second World War, when Japan was humbled, General MacArthur, sent back a plea to America. Japan has been humbled. I need 1,000 missionaries. And I think if 1,000 missionaries had come, we would have seen a wonderful harvest. A few came, a few hundred came. And there are some churches that were established. Sadly, though, the baton hasn't been passed very effectively in many of those churches. And now the average church size in Japan is 41 people. On our island, it's less, 31. But there were some seeds that were sown 50 years ago. There were some mission schools that were started that still had even a small portion of Bible taught. There are some seeds being sown, but we need more labourers to keep sowing and to reap the harvest of all this land. And Japan is not the only country like this. All around the globe, there's probably 50 or 60 countries where there have been some seeds sown, but the harvest hasn't been finished. Uganda, Indonesia, Thailand, all sorts of countries. They're not closed to the gospel. There's been some seeds planted. Cambodia's like this. There's been some seeds planted, and now we're starting to see some harvesting going on. But the country is so huge, and the labourers are still so few. These people will see Jesus if someone will go, if someone will sow. These people would see Jesus. So we have the Jewish people. They would see Jesus. We have the totally unreached people groups and unreached nations. They would see Jesus. We have the partially evangelized groups of people. They too would see Jesus. I want to look at one more passage, jumping a few chapters in Acts to chapter 17 and verse 16. Mars Hill. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. I've highlighted that in red in my Bible. His spirit was stirred within him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. These pictures that I've tried to paint today, does it stir your spirit? If it doesn't stir your spirit, then I can say for sure you haven't really seen Jesus. Because the heart of Jesus is in those people. He came for them and he died for them. Will you let your heart be stirred? Oh yeah. Jesus did. He looked over the Jews and he wept for them. Paul said, I'm prepared to be accursed for the Jews. He gave his entire life to reach the next city and the next city and the next person. This is halfway through his second missionary journey. I guarantee he's tired. He's traveling alone. Financially, he's running short. But still, he let his heart be stirred. He's been shipwrecked. He's given up all his family status. He's had his life sought after numerous times. He's been stoned almost to death. But something inside him says, I've got to press forward. And despite all this, when he walks into Athens,